Welcome to the channel and this introductory video for a new irregular series where we will be playing Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. Now I'm aware many people don't like long introductions, so I want to emphasize that there is no actual gameplay in this video. If you want to see the gameplay, feel free to jump forward to the next part in the series, which will be published at exactly the same time as this video. Now, for any of you who stayed, this introduction will consist of two parts. In the first part, I'm going to be talking about the game and the way it plays and its objectives. And then in the second part, I will go through the process of setting the Let's Play up for the series. And at the end, I will go on to the actual map and give you a tour of the map, talk a little bit about the objectives of how we're going to build up our self-sufficient society. Now, if you've decided to remain, welcome. Now, Workers and Resources is an early access game. It's been out for a little while now, and it's produced by a company called 3 Division. It's a very interesting game in the sense that it's a city building stroke tycoon game with a very heavy emphasis on micromanagement. And I want to emphasize the micromanagement side of the game because it actually operates at 2 levels. So if you're not really into managing every aspect of a game, this might not be the game for you. But if you're a bit like me, you like your micromanagement, this could be the game for you. Now, I did say that it works at 2 levels, and it works at 2 levels in the sense that there's what you could call I wouldn't say simpler version, but a more straightforward version where you can build the items you need using auto build. And there's another option where you literally build everything as you go along. Needless to say, we're going to be building as much as possible as we go along. So moving on, as I've already said, this is a real-time Soviet-themed city builder tycoon game, and the objective is to build a self-sufficient industrial powerhouse starting from a very poor country. In fact, you literally start with nothing unless you have work with a populated map. As I've already said, the game requires the player to manage all aspects of the economy, including gathering the resources, building the manufacturing buildings, looking after the needs of the population, which is quite complicated. It's not a simple happiness bar. They have all sorts of needs that need to be fulfilled. That includes education, which is a very big factor in the game, and there's all sorts of deep mechanics, and this is one of the things that gets me about this game. The more you seem to get into it, the more depth you seem to be finding. And of course, when the game first came out, I did do a short series on it, and I was very impressed with the game, but due to other factors I wasn't able to continue with the series. And since that initial release, they've now added the ability to make your own vehicles and ships, so you can build your own ships. So you can literally, if you want to go absolutely 100% low level, you can get to the point where you're building all your vehicles, you're no longer purchasing them. I think the previous update introduced nuclear power, which introduced a new element on the map, which is very much a late game facility. And of course, the version we're currently playing on, I'm recording this in July 2020, if you're watching this in the future, there is now heating. So if your workers get cold, they get upset, they leave, and of course, more importantly, they don't work and your economy can crash. Now, the addition of heating has completely changed the game dynamic, and this is the primary reason why I think it's time for me to come back and do a series. Now, I am aware that this is a very slow-paced game. This is why it's going to be an irregular series, because it's not going to be blow by blow, half hour like this, because there will be periods when nothing much happens and I will be playing off camera. So this is going to be more of a series where I'll be showing you the key features and doing a lot of the grind off camera. Just to wind up this first part of the introduction, I've sort of talked about the economy, because again, it comes back to what I said, that there's always a bit more depth, because the economy is real time, the prices aren't fixed. And what actually happens is, if you sell lots of goods across the border, because that's your export market, the price will fall. And more importantly, as time progresses, the prices at the border will increase, which is one of the main drivers for why you need to become self-sufficient. And just to give you a bit of an example, steel is expensive at the beginning of the game. As the game progresses, imported steel gets more and more and more expensive. And that really means that you need to get a steel industry up and running. And there's also another hidden feature for anyone who doesn't want to build all their own buildings. You need to be aware that what actually happens is that when you put goods away from the border where the customs post is, where you'll be purchasing items, there is a delivery charge when you're auto buy purchasing. So if you get to the center of the map, purchasing items is very expensive, so you've got to transport in. And of course, what they introduced in the previous update, if I remember correctly, is you can now purchase items from the customs station, where before you had to build like a cluster of warehouses next to the customs things. So that's changed. I think that's probably enough for the first part of the introduction. What we're going to do now is come on to here. This is another change that's happened since the initial release. You've now got random maps, and you can also get workshop maps here. You can see I've gone through a whole load of maps here. The random map generator, I did consider using it, but there is one problem with the random map generator. If I come in here, and we just ignore that for the moment, we come in here, you'll see you've got random map settings. Now, these are pretty good. You can get some good maps from there, but the one problem that there is with the random map is that the resources tend to be scattered evenly across the map, which to me substantially reduces the challenge, because you could literally build a self-sufficient city on one edge of the map and that would be it. And what I would recommend for this is the ability to actually specify the rarity of certain resources such as coal and iron, so that they're not scattered all over the map. So that's the reason why we're not going to be using the random map. I'll go forward to the map we're going to be using. We're going to be playing Northern Canada. Now, for any of you who are purists, I know Canada is not a Soviet country, but I really enjoy this map. It's actually produced by somebody called Fire, with lots of numbers and behind their name, so I presume that they wanted to make the name unique because of the as a workshop name. It's a really terrific map. I will give you an overview later on, but it's the most challenging map I've actually found out of all these. And that leads me now on to why I've rejected some of these other maps. And what I've actually found, they've either got too many resources all over the map, so effectively the whole map is a splurge of red. The resources are overlapping, and I mean, again, it just makes the map too easy, because you just go in and then you build your coal mines and iron mines next to each other, and you've got your steel industry up and running very, very quickly. The other problem with some of these maps, I won't embarrass the creators, is that they put deposits down in interesting locations, but they don't really strengthen up the resources. They're quite weak. So when you put a mine over it, the productivity is about 20%, and there's only like 2 or 3 of these across the map. So there's not enough resources in those areas when you get to them to become self-sufficient. You've still got to keep importing. What I would suggest is, if you're creating a map, just consider when you place these strategic resources that you make them deep enough and so that they go green, so that the player can build a completely self-sufficient society from those resources, even if they are in awkward, out of the way places. As I said, we're going to be playing Northern Canada, or the Soviet Republic of Northern Canada. Just assume that the Soviets never sold Alaska and then they moved into Canada. Did that wrong? Now you can see this map actually has a population on it, and it's about 200 or 300. And to be honest, it's absolutely no use whatsoever. So I'm just going to get rid of the population, because there's no interconnected roads. I think the idea of the population is to represent the indigenous Indian population in their little villages around the map. None of them are near the starting locations. Now, what I am going to do is talk a little bit about the difficulty in this game. What I suggest is, even if you've never played this game before, always play on hard. Probably the easiest way is to me explain how the mechanics work. The hard in this game doesn't mean things are harder to do as such in the way of prices and all that. What it does is it actually switches on the game mechanics. So if you select easy, effectively you're playing with no mechanics enabled. A big chunk of money, you can build everything, there's no pollution, there's no education. Well, I think it's simple actually, but no elementary schools. Yes, so you get basic there. Then when you go to medium, you get the education switches on. You've got vehicle availability, which I'll set that to 1960. You've got a little bit of pollution. The summer winter seasons, I'm just going to turn that off because not that one. And then you've got energy management, which means you've got to put power to your buildings, but you don't need fuel for vehicles. And of course, your citizens don't get so upset. And of course, if you go to hard, what you effectively do is switch on all the mechanics. But what you can do is, say you want to do a hard start, but you want to have a pile of cash, you can do this. And if you set your starting cash to easy, that gives you 10 million. medium is 3.5 million, and hard is 1 million. But also bear in mind, you also get rubles and dollars. So on hard, you start with 1,000,000 rubles and $500,000. But I've inadvertently actually done the settings I'm going to be playing this on. So we're going to play on all the settings on hard. The only thing I am going to do is turn off the day-night cycle. The reason I'm turning off the day-night cycle, I know there are people who are a bit purist and say you should be playing on that because it changes the power consumption. The main reason I'm switching off the night-day cycle is simply down to recording for YouTube. The nights are just as long as the days. They come quite frequently, and nobody likes sitting there just watching a black screen. I mean, it'd be really great if there's some way you could switch the day cycle on after you've actually got in the game, so you can actually show what night actually looks like and have a bit of a challenge. For anyone who's upset about me not playing the night-day cycle, apologies for that. There's not much else I can do. And of course, this is the new feature that's been introduced with this update. There's now seasons. Again, you can switch them off, but we want to play with the seasons. We are starting in 1960 because that makes the vehicles a little bit more difficult. I mean, if you start on a later date, you get better quality vehicles. And of course, we lock according to years. So that what this means is that vehicles will age out and new vehicles will come in. So your vehicle fleet will disappear. And we got complex. I think that is about it. Can't see anything else. We've got custom, and we might as well just get straight in onto the map. Now I'm going to pause the game while we do this, although what I'll probably do, you can see we're actually on the map. I'm just going to draw it up here so I can give you a bit of a tour of the map. This is the mini map. Again, this was not available when the game first came out. You can see the map is actually a square, and what you've got here, you can actually see the resources. And so there's 4 resources: coal, iron, oil and uranium. And this actually shows why I like this map, because coal's in the right position, because coal is your initial driver for your economy, because without coal you can't make electricity and you can't produce other resources. And then down below here you can see the iron is out on here, so to get to it we're going to need to build bridges and get ships. So getting the iron is going to be a challenge. The same with the oil. So there's no, because there is a cheat in this game where if you happen to have oil next to your starting location, you build a few oil fields, it doesn't need people, you can make a big pile of cash. So I like the idea of the fact that the oil is out here, and say I take my hat off to Fire. He's really got into my mentality of how I like to play this game. And of course uranium's a little bit closer there, but so we're going to have to work for all the resources except coal. And more importantly, if you look down into the bottom right hand corner there, you'll see that the coal is got some really dark patches in there which we'll be able to take advantage of, and it's near the starting location, because well, it'd be easier just to show it to you on the map. So I'm just going to reduce this down, and we're going to come here. Now this map only has 2 real starting positions. If you want to start on hard, there's only one starting location, and that is here. This is the customs post. You can see you can purchase stuff here, and this is the Russian border, or the Russian Federation as what you'd probably call it now. And that goes up this side of the map, and over this side you've got a NATO customs shed, and you see on this side you have to buy in dollars, and this is the main entry port. So what we've got here is an area where you could build up a city that will be able to import and export both in rubles and in dollars. So this would be our area here, but you can see the map's not actually flat. Now if I actually go up round, we can come over here. Let me just make the map a bit bigger. Sometimes it's easier to see. So what we got over here is the second starting point here, but the problem here is there is no power supply from here. So starting from here would be quite problematic, and I think we got another small one up here which actually comes in from the NATO countries. Again, there's no power supply here, so I mean it'd be good for exports, but it won't be much good for anything else. In the intro I did mention the population. I'm trying to think where the population is, because the population in this map is actually scattered in small little villages. We go to Moose Village, there it is here. And this is where the population would be, and they're all scattered out around these areas here, which means that for the purposes of starting out, unless you really want to haul the population back to the starting location. So I'm quite happy to start with no population, but what I would like to do is connect up to some of these places. I think there's a couple of them scattered on the map here. You can't actually see them. Anyway, just get back down to here. And just to wind up this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the strategy we're going to do, because another one of the reasons why I like this map is if I put on the wireframe, you can see this map isn't flat. A lot of maps very obligingly give you a flat area here to build on. And we've got gravel up over here, but getting here is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I mean, this is where we'll be going originally, and if I show you the iron, so if I come into here, and where's it? Gravel, coal, and iron. What you want? Not coal, not iron. What am I on about? Let's go back here. Gravel, coal, and iron. There's the coal mine. What you'll see is we've got some coal mines up on these hills here. So this is where we'll be heading first, over here. But to get here, what we're going to have to do is build a economically self-sufficient town in this area here, which means we're going to have to build up a community here that can export what it produces. So it's actually making money, because the 1 million rubles isn't going to last us that long. Just shrink that down. Got a tiny little bit of gravel there, just to show you, if anyone's not familiar with the game. You can see here we can just get a little bit of gravel there. I think there's some more around here that's a bit more productive, and I think there's some more over here. So there's three little patches of gravel here we can use to drive our economy. But the key factor is in here, we're going to have to build our starter town. Now the actual connection itself is pretty good. We've got 3 railways and 3 roads. In fact, it's a bit overkill, to be honest. This is our only rail connection with respect to the Russian Federation. Obviously over here we've got a similar layout. So let's just get back over to here. So what we're going to have to do is, in order to be export goods from the centre using trains, we're going to have to make sure we protect these rail lines coming in. Although I probably won't take all 3 out. I'll probably just take 2 lines out and then maybe create a junction out this way. In fact, what we'll probably do is take the rail line out round there and come through here. I must admit, I've done a little bit of work on the map, but not that much. Just trying to get a feel for the initial layout of this area here. And what I'll be doing in the next video is going into a bit more depth about how you level things and all that. See, we've got a little bit of a plateau here we can use, but this is going to be a problem here. We may have to level this and bring up this area here. Anyway, I'm starting to plan the game, so this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed this introductory video, and I shall see you once we start laying out and building our new society. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.